Welcome to Academia eConnect lecture on Occupational Health and ESI Act. I, Dr. Mitasha Singh
And I am Dr. Shipra Saini.
from ESIC Medical College and Hospital, Faridabad. We are going to cover occupational health and following
ESI
headings.
Act.
And ESI Act and following headings. So Dr. Shipra will cover why is occupational health important in current scenario.
Yes, so occupational health is essentially a preventive medicine, as both have the same goals of health promotion, specific protection, early diagnosis and treatment, and rehabilitation. And good occupational health has a positive impact on the country's productivity, economic, and social development.
So as she said, the health protection promotion, and this is echoed in the definition given by World Health Organization and ILO in their definition of occupational health, and which was actually derived after the work of Bernardino Ramazzini, the father of occupational industrial medicine, in his the famous book. And then the concept of ergonomics came, which is actually fitting the job to the worker. It is a study of humans at work. And we want to understand the complex relationship of man, machine, and the psychological activities going on.
If occupational or the working environment is the sum total of the external conditions and influences which prevail at the workplace, and it is basically the interaction between man and machine, man and environment, and man and man. Man and machine, for example, an unguarded machine or a machine that lacks the safety measures will provide hazardous circumstances for the employee. And similarly, environment that include the physical, biological, and the chemical agents that can cause the deleterious effect on the employee. Man and man includes the physical, psychological stresses at the workplace, relationship between the man and the boss, colleagues, and job satisfaction and other stresses. So, Dr. Mitasha, these physical hazards can lead to occupational diseases. So, can you classify how these occupational diseases are classified as per the occupational hazard?
Are classified in various ways. One is based on agents, that is physical, chemical, and biological, which is visible on the screen. The agents causing the disease, the more common agents which are here due to heat, cold, light. Due to chemical agents, due to gases, pneumoconiosis will be dealt in detail in later slides. The metals, solvents, and all, and the biological, which we health workers are exposed to, and the cancers, which will be dealt later on. And yes, there are other classification also which can be read from the text, but we move towards the more important occupational diseases.
Yeah, the most important one is pneumoconiosis, which is also called as a dust disease. So, as we all know that a dust size range between 0.5 to 3 micron is a health hazard. So, group of diseases that occurring at this specific occupation caused by the inhalation of insoluble dust over a long period of exposure can lead to pneumoconiosis. Out of all the pneumoconiosis, silicosis is the most dreadful, or that can cause permanent disability, and it is also called as the grinders or the potter's disease, and it mainly occurs in people who are working in mining factories, pottery factories, or metal grinding factories. It is notifiable diseases under the Factories Act 1948. Its incubation ranges from few months to 6 years, and the clinical features include irritant cough, dyspnea on exertion, and the most notorious one is the silicotuberculosis, where the silicotic lung does not dispute on examination, on sputum examination, tubercle bacilli cannot be seen. And on X-ray, it shows the snowstorm appearance or the ball of wool appearance on the apex of the lung. Another notifiable disease is the anthracosis, which is also called as the coal worker pneumoconiosis or miner's black lung. It is due to inhalation of coal dust over a long period of time, and it occurs in two phases. Simple one that occurs after the exposure of more than 12 years after the exposure of the dust, and the progressive massive fibrosis that lead to deleterious effect on the respiration system and leads to premature death of the employee. Then comes the lead poisoning.
Before lead
Lead,
poisoning, I would like to add that there are other pneumoconiosis also. To name them, we have byssinosis, bagasosis, and Palmer's lung, and which must be read in detail because they contribute to a smaller proportion of pneumoconiosis. And then we move towards a very important problem, that is of lead poisoning.
yes, so lead is the most toxic element, and it is used in more than 200 industries where lead is used. And clinical features include anemia, Bartonian's line, that is blue lines on the gums. And in the day-to-day practice, lead palsy or the wrist drop is seen. And mental confusion, sterility, tremors, vertigo. It is commonly seen in ESI patients.
You must have come across a lot of patients in your practice.
Yes, when I was doing my residency a few years back, I saw a patient of wrist drop when we juniors were, trying to get out why the wrist drop. One of our senior came and took the history of occupation, and he said that he was working in some lead industry. So the diagnosis was very clear.
Right. So moving towards the more deadlier ones, the occupational cancers, they develop after 20 to 25 years of exposure, but they can also develop after cessation of exposure. And once developed, yes, they are not reversible. Skin cancers, as we know, are the major proportion of the occupational cancers, mainly in gas workers, coke oven workers, dye workers. Then next is the bladder cancer, which was also observed in 18th century in aniline and rubber industry, and to follow them is lung cancer and leukemia. And the most
Yes, the other important entity is the accidents in the industry.
Yes.
Mostly in construction workers. So more than 1,000 deaths and 4,000 injuries are reported each year in the factories due to these injuries, out of which 92% can cause temporary disablement. So the most common cause of accidents is the human factor, that is 85%. That includes physical, physiological, and psychological factors, and environmental factors that include temperature, poor illumination, etc., can lead to accidents in industry.
So moving towards the managerial issues with the occupational disease, the health problem, it is actually the sickness absenteeism. It is a health problem also, and it also impedes the production of the factory, and also an index to assess the state of health of the worker, physical, mental, social, everything, well-being. And it is expressed in number of days of absence or in a rate form with numerator of number of days of absence in year and denominator as total number of workers. Major causes, which is mostly an important question also. Medical causes, 10%, mostly alimentary and respiratory diseases. Economic causes, very important to see because it is for factory workers who are covered under ESI Act, they get sick leave, paid sick leave. So sometimes they tend to avail the privilege of this by reporting sick. And other are social factors, other causes like nutritional disorders, alcoholism, and drug addiction, which leads to sickness and absenteeism. Moving to prevention.
So, yes, as we all know, occupational diseases cannot be cured. So the best answer is prevention. The prevention of occupational diseases can be done by three ways: medical measures, legislative measures, and engineering measures. Out of the medical measures, the first is the pre-placement examination that includes at the time of the placement, at the time of the entry, the workers go through a battery of tests including the physical examination and the detailed history of the medical history is taken, and battery of tests are done. And the main purpose of pre-placement examination is that right person should get the right job. For example, a patient already suffering from anemia or hypertension should avoid working in a lead industry, or a patient suffering from asthma should not go to industry of silicosis or like that. So this act as a benchmark for the future comparison also. Then comes the periodic examination. So since the occupational diseases are slow growing, so if we the early because of the slow development, the early signs and symptoms can be missed easily. So periodic examination is very important for these people.
Right.
And medical services are provided by the ESI, not only to the the family, but not only to the employee but also to the family. Notification of these diseases is very important to correct the preventive measures and also to look out why the occupational diseases has occurred. Then supervision of the working environment is done by the physician periodically to look out for the air pollution or working environment. How is it? Then maintenance of the health records is essential, and then health education and counseling is done time to time on how to use the properly protective measures, etc.
So, as are the medical measures important, engineering measures are the most cost-effective ones. Once done, goes for a long time. So, designing a building in a way that its floor, height, ceiling area is conducive for the worker. The housekeeping, which is the most fundamental requirement in hygiene and sanitation. The 500 square cubic feet area by Indian Factory Act forms a general ventilation rule. The mechanization of most of the work reduces the risk of, you say, dermatitis, substitution of harmful chemicals with the less harmful ones, and the least ones with protective devices, exhaust, isolating their harmful places. So these are the engineering measures. And then we move to the legislations, which our country is
Yes,
providing for.
very important, Dr. Mitasha, legislation. So it is a social obligation of the society to protect to protect the workers who are working for us for the productivity, so that they don't lose their life or limb for the difficult occupation. So the first act that came in 1948, which is called as the Factories Act, it secures the worker safety, welfare, regulate the working hours, ensure the annual leaves and wages, and provide protection from the hazardous processes, protection of the women workplace, and prohibition of the employment of the children. So this act was amended last in 2005, and mostly the amendments were done after Bhopal gas tragedy. The second in line is, and the most important one, is the ESI, Employee State Insurance Act 1948, which came into force on 19th April 1948, and last amendment was done in 2016. So this act provides for certain benefits of the employee in case of sickness, maternity, and injury during employment, and to make provision thereafter in relation to it. So basically, this act covers all non-seasonal factories employing 10 or more persons. After 1975, however, the shops, hotels, restaurants, or employing 20 or more persons were also included in this act. So now ESI scheme is notified in 595 districts and 35 states, and the existing wage limit for the coverage under the act is 21,000 per month.
If we move to the financial aspect, which is very important since it is a social security scheme, the employee's contribution is 0.75% of the salary and employers is 3.25%. This is the most important part of it, and total is 4%. And for medical care, the expenditure by state is 1/8, and by the corporation is 7/8. And moving towards the benefits, the medical benefit which comes the first is which is provided in form of OPD care, IPD care, and free of cost to the family members and the insured persons. And it also provides old age medical care to retired and disabled insured persons and their spouses with an annual premium income of 120 rupees. The medical benefits are provided either in a direct or indirect way. Direct ways through their dispensaries, where there are more than 1,000 IP families. And indirect is through panel system, panel hospitals are there, and all the preventive and curative services are provided, inpatient to emergency to everyone. So, and the other benefits are
Other benefits include sickness benefits. So any person IP who's certified to have a sickness by an insured medical practitioner can get cash payment up to 91 days that can be extended up to 2 years. Then full wages maternity benefit is given to a insured woman who is pregnant or had miscarriage or premature death of the fetus. Then temporary and permanent disablement benefits are given to the insured person who undergoes an occupational injury or disease, and it is 90% of their wages. And in case of permanent disablement, full lifetime pension is given. Dependent benefit is given to the dependent family members if their IP is if died due to any occupational diseases. Funeral expenses up to rupees 15,000 is given after the death of the IP. And unemployment allowances are given to if the abrupt stop of the factory, shutdown of the factory, then IPs are given an unemployment allowance for 6 months, full wages till they get their next job. Then benefits to the employee, they get exemption from the Workmen Compensation Act, from the Maternal Benefit Act, and they get rebate under the Income Tax Act on contribution in the ESI account. And last but not the least, they get a healthy workforce.
right. And with this, the ESI moved to its second generation since it has been working for more than 75 years. All the electronic records are present in the cloud for the beneficiaries. And Abhiyan Indradhanush is in place in the hospitals with medical helpline emergency numbers and special OPD for senior citizens and differently able persons. And so with this, we come to the end of the lecture. And these are the common questions asked in various universities in form of short notes. It's mostly a theoretical topic, but it will gain a lot of what we say practical importance in the coming days when most of the industrialization is going on in the country. And we thank finally Dr. Himashri from the eConnect team, Dr. Rashmi, Dr. Wasim, Dr. Harshal, Dr. Likat, and patrons are Dr. Kadri, Dr. Harivansh, Dr. Purushottam Giri. Thank you all, and thank you, Dr. Shipra.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mitasha.